Hello, how are you doing today? I'm so sorry that I've been trying to do this daily news thing for a while, but it's not working out somehow. And the reason is that I've been trying to be extremely ambitious. I was planning to do, give you the whole coverage of the day. And, when I work on the stories, sometimes there'll be 20 stories. And when I write I do the research, write the script, and it's so large. And then I have other things to do that pay my bills. So it kind of goes to the back burner and it never happened. So what I decided yesterday there was that let's be less ambitious. Let's take small steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm planning to do from 1 to 5 stories per day. So what I'll do is at around midday Eastern time, I'll look at the news items and I'll pick top 5 stories of the day and I will talk about those. That means that I will not have to work on a very large list. I can quickly look at the major stories and give you a very quick overview and some in-depth, analysis of what's going on. So that's my plan going forward, and hopefully that will work out. So if I'm back tomorrow, that means it's working. Hopefully I'll be back. I'll find a way to start doing it on regular basis. So let's talk about today's story. So the biggest story of the day, as you all know, is Samsung Galaxy Note 9. Samsung has announced Galaxy Note 9 as the bigger and better successor to Note 8. Actually, I own Note 8 right now. I'm using it with my teleprompter as I'm reading this news. Note 9 has more RAM and more storage, of course, new processor. It's coming in two memory sizes, 6 GB and 8 GB. 6 GB comes with a maximum 128 gigabyte of internal storage, and the 8 GB one comes with 512 gigabyte. It's incredible, right? 500, it's almost half a terabyte of storage on a smartphone, and you actually do need it. Like, for example, I shoot all my videos from my phone in 4K. So where is it going to be stored? I need a storage. And of course these things are expensive, so the 128 GB version is being sold for $999 or $1,000, and the bigger brother is, I think, $1,300. So you're going to spend $1,300 on a smartphone. I can get a Mac for that price. So what are you going to get out of all that money? And do you really need to upgrade if you have Note 8? Well, in my case, I will be upgrading because I think Apple has spoiled us. Especially there is so much is happening in some areas like machine learning and artificial intelligence and augmented reality that you have to keep up with that. If it's your job, it's your job, you need the right tools. So as a tech journalist, I have to keep an eye on what's going on, and that is why I use all 3 platforms. I have Pixel phone to keep an eye on the stock Android experience. I have iPhone X so that I can keep an eye on what Apple is doing in augmented reality, and I have Samsung Note 8 because of course Samsung doesn't excel in those areas, but they are doing a lot of work in VR space especially, and at the same time since they are one of the biggest player in the Android space, I do want to keep an eye on what they are doing. At the same time, a lot of things on Note is actually more useful than what I get on my Pixel or iPhone X. I carry all these phones, but most of the time the phone that I take out of my pocket happens to be Note 8, and there are a couple of reasons, and the number one reason is S Pen. It allows me to quickly take notes or write follow-up questions when I'm doing interviews. I don't have to carry a laptop or a pen and notebook anymore. And it doesn't need, I don't have to open any app. I just pull the pen out and I can start writing on the blank screen. That's it. And it's all saved on the device. I don't have to worry about saving anything. When I am like walking around all these events and meet someone, I can quickly note down phone numbers or email addresses. I don't have to once again look for, no car, no problem. I can quickly do it. And sometimes, I also, when I'm in plane, I also use it for drawing. I do a lot of drawing, so sketching. It's very good. It's as good as Apple's, pencil. It's really impressive. I wish it was a bit thicker, so I could get a better grip, but it's really good. And with Note 8, they are going to add Bluetooth capabilities, which means that now I can use my S Pen as a remote control for things like taking selfies or pictures, or I have that DJI Osmo Mobile gimbal, which I put on a tripod and I used to record. Now I can use S Pen as a remote control, so that would be a great feature. I'll see, once I get the device, I'll see how good it is. The second reason I use my Note 8 more than other phones is camera. Though I carry Panasonic GH5 and a Sony a7 III, I'm using it to record this video. But there are times when you don't have that camera, and that's where you need to use mobile phone. I must say that iPhone X has the worst camera. Sorry, iPhone fans. But oh my god, if you have used Pixel or any Samsung device, there is no comparison whatsoever. Pixel camera is good because Google does a lot of machine learning to improve the quality, but iPhone is just nowhere. So with my gimbal, I use my Samsung Note 8 to do a lot of those kind of pan shots and all the dolly shots you would need from a regular camera, you can take with that combo. And since it's waterproof, so I also use it to take some underwater photography. I'm very careful, and videography of my kids when they're in the pool. So it's one of the greatest phone cameras out there, and that's really incredible if you have seen the images from Samsung Note 8. The third feature that I love, I don't know how many of you are a fan of that feature, is VR. I'm heavily into VR. I have that Sony VR. I am playing Assassin's Creed on my 4K TV, but I wear the VR and suddenly I am playing the game on a massive 500-inch screen. I watch Game of Thrones on that massive screen. All the movies, I have movies anywhere, so I can buy it from any device and I can watch it on my VR headset. What Samsung does, it allows me to bring that VR experience with me. So I am not restricted to my table or my room or my PlayStation to watch it. I put the gear on and I can enjoy everything there. They have introduced a beta where all the apps that are available on phone, even if they don't have a VR version, you can watch it in a 2D screen mode. And of course, there are a lot of movies on Oculus which are available in 3D. So you can watch 3D movies on a big giant screen using your Sony Note phone. Just imagine the last episode of Game of Thrones when the wall was broken on a big giant screen with the headphones with the full blast music in your ear. It's amazing. iPad or even 4K 50 or 70-inch TV will not give you that bliss. So I love VR. What else is there? Though as I said, I also have Pixel, and Pixel I also have Daydream, but the biggest problem with Pixel is that it does not have much internal space and it doesn't support external storage, so I cannot download or save a lot of movies on it when I'm going to from East Coast to West Coast, where the flight could be as long as 8 hours, or when I go to Europe or Australia. So Samsung Note, because of that external memory storage, I can put a lot of movies there. So that's kind of neat usage of that device, and that is one of the features that I love. And there's one more feature that I'm going to love in this device is DeX. So DeX is basically desktop. So what you do is, there used to be a dock. You plug in the dock to the phone, you put the phone on the dock and plug it to the monitor, and suddenly the whole phone UI kind of transforms into a full-blown PC UI, and you can use mouse and do your work as a regular PC. Of course, it's not Windows, it's still Android. I think they were working on a Linux version on it. They started a beta and I signed up for the beta. I did not hear anything from them, but I still think, because I don't have the phone in my hand, so I cannot tell you what OS they're using there. I mean, of course, it's Android, but I cannot talk much about UI and everything and experience. But with this release, you don't need the dock anymore. All you need is a USB-C to HDMI cable, plug it to a monitor, pair a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, and you're good. And that's incredible because, you know, I have this MacBook, the new MacBook that came out. I have to actually do a review of this, and I already have USB Type-C to HDMI cable. I can just plug it in and use it. So that will be incredible for a lot of people who really don't want to bring laptops. I don't really know, because the thing is, if you're not bringing a laptop, you have to bring a monitor to be able to do that work. But this is not what it is for. It is more or less for bring your own device kind of environment, where you go to office, they have a monitor, you plug in your phone. If you're a sales kind of guy, you plug in your phone, file a report, do all the work, unplug your phone and take all the data with you. So your data is with you all the time. You go your home, you plug in your phone, you start doing the work, you start filing the report. That's kind of audience that it is targeting. But I think it will be a really nice experience, because now I don't need an expensive dock, so I can try it. So we'll see what it is. And if you remember, Canonical was trying to do the same thing with Ubuntu. I mean, back in those days, Canonical had some great plans, Ubuntu TV and all those things, but nothing materialized there. So I'll see what it looks like. I'm on T-Mobile's Jump on Demand program, and T-Mobile is taking pre-orders tonight. So I'll be pre-ordering it, and you know, I hope it will be sent to me as soon as possible so that I can write about it. Just a few words about Samsung, that I have some gripes with them. I love Samsung hardware. I have Samsung 4K TV. I have Samsung 360 gear for the 360 videos. I have Samsung VR. I used to have Samsung Watch. I have Samsung Note 8. So I love everything about Samsung hardware, but I'm not a huge fan of Samsung software. Just think about Note 9. Android 9 was released 2 weeks or 1 week ago. They could have very easily put Android 9 on Note 9, because, you know, as a member of, you know, Android projects, they had early access to it, but they are still shipping it with Android 8.1. And the new Android comes with a lot of machine learning capabilities, a lot of artificial intelligence is there. And I have already installed it on my Pixel phone, and I'm playing with it. I'll be doing a review of it soon. But Samsung could have done better there. And that was one of the reasons that I never, I had Samsung Gear Watch, but I could never use it because it uses Tizen and it has limited functionality there. So I think Samsung would be even more popular if they were using a stock Android there, but then maybe they won't be able to bring things like DeX or S Pen, you know, so there is some trade-off there. But at least they can do one thing that I really despise, is Bixby. It's nowhere near, you know, whether the experience or the machine learning capabilities of Google Assistants. I wish Samsung simply kill Bixby and use Google Assistant as the default launcher, and, you know, voice interactive or voice assistant or mobile assistant, whatever you want to call it there. That would be great. I mean, I can deal with the rest of the UI, but Bixby and Google Assistant, nah. Please, Samsung, bring, you know, Google Assistant as the default virtual assistant on Samsung Note 8 phone, please. Anyway, that was about phone. Now let's talk a bit about space. Vice President Mike Pence announced a plan to build U.S. Space Force as the new branch of U.S. military. He laid out the plans at the Pentagon today, and considering that U.S. has the largest military budget in the world, it's not surprising that the Trump administration is going to throw a lot of money on this branch that will waste a lot of tax dollars. I mean, our infrastructure is crumbling. We have one of the worst education and healthcare system in the world. As someone who has lived in Europe, I know how good it could be, but instead we are, you know, just wasting all the money on I don't even know what to say, unnecessary wastage on wars. But given the size of the US budget, I think more money will be put there. So a lot of defense companies are going to be richer, and it may trigger a new era of warfare where more and more countries will be wasting resources on space warfare. It's not that we are going to set up a garrison or on Mars or Moon. It's mostly, I think, to protect our satellite or to be able to destroy satellites of adversary like China. Trump is not going to touch Russian satellites, but that's the plan, I think. The Trump administration is planning to set up a space command by the end of the year, which will be led by a four-star general. So we'll see how the Space Force works out. Now let's talk about, since we are talking about security, let's talk about Linux and security. We often hear that open source and Linux is very secure, but it's not secure by magic. It's secure because the source code is open, people can look at it and they can patch it very quickly. That doesn't mean it's fully secure. No code is secure. Now the researchers at Carnegie Mellon University's CERT-CC have warned of a bug in Linux kernel 4.9 that can be used for distributed denial of service attacks on networking kits. Security news is always scary. It's all about getting people scared, but I don't think there is much to worry about here. First of all, the patch is already there, so don't be like Equifax and please go ahead and update your systems. And the second thing is that the advisory itself has made it clear that maintaining the denial of service condition requires continuous two-way TCP session to a reachable open port. So an attacker cannot perform attacks using spoofed IP addresses. So don't worry too much about it. Don't get scared. While we are talking about Linux, I have another good story about Linux, and that is that Linux is coming to Chromebook. I'm talking about, okay, Chromebook is Linux, we all know that, but now you can run Debian applications on Chromebooks. As you all know, Google announced Project Crostini in May at the Google I/O Summit. Initially, it was for Pixel devices, where on Pixel you can run other Linux distributions, but now a wide range of latest Chromebooks are supported. So now you can run Linux apps on those devices. All you need is, if you have the latest supported Chromebook, I can put a list down there in the description below. Just change the channel to the dev channel, and of course it will power wash your machine. Once you have finished power washing, log into your system, go to devices under settings, and there you will see Linux beta options. When you enable that option, it will download Debian bash shell, and that's it. Now go ahead and add get update. Google is using a customized version of Debian there with some repositories. The basic idea behind this move is to turn Chromebook into a platform for developers, because developers love Mac OS and they love Windows. Some also use Linux. I'm sorry to say that, but I have not. When I go to all these events like DockerCon or OpenStack, all I see is MacBooks because it's pure Unix, and they can also use it as their production machine to do Photoshop and Adobe Premiere and all those other things that they do. I mean, they all have lives. They watch movies, and it's a very reliable platform. And then a lot of people use Windows as well. And now Microsoft has bought Linux bash on Windows, so now you can run native Linux utilities that you need to manage your servers or to develop applications. It's there. So Chromebook was behind. With this move, now you can just fire up a full-blown Debian, and you can use Chromebook as a developer platform. And you can you can already install a lot of Android apps on Chromebooks, and now you have access to all those Debian applications. So you have a big gamut of application at your disposal. And I won't be surprised that soon people will be able to run Steam games on some of the most powerful Chromebooks. So I won't be surprised if this year at the upcoming Open Source Summit, Jim Zamlin will finally declare that 2019 is going to be the year of Linux on desktop, and maybe this time it won't be a joke, it will be a reality. We'll see, but I think we are moving closer. I remember my interview with Linus Torvalds I think 1 or 2 years ago, when we are talking about it, and he also agreed that maybe Chromebook is the desktop that we were planning. Sometimes you don't get the things the way you want, so maybe it's the same thing is going to happen with Linux. We won't get the pure Linux that we wanted, but Chromebook may be that Linux. While we are talking about Google, as you all know that Google has announced Android 9, which comes with the AI powered features. I have already installed it on my Pixel phone, but I have not played with it much. I'll be playing it on a weekend, and I'll be doing a review next week. But I'm really excited how Google is using artificial intelligence to power this device. So that's about machine learning and artificial intelligence and phone. Let's talk about social networking for a while. None of these stories are good stories. One is that Facebook, after the whole Cambridge Analytica leak, Facebook now wants banks to trust it and hand over sensitive financial data on its users to the social network. No, sir, I don't want my bank to hand over any of my information to Facebook only to be exploited and used and leaked and shared with I don't even know who all are there who are plugging into Facebook and doing all that thing. And I think by now Facebook has lost the trust of people, so I won't be comfortable at all no matter what Facebook does. Another reason why it is troublesome was that during a call, some journalists asked Facebook that why Facebook is not banning the controversial conspiracy theorist Alex Jones from its platform, and Mark Zuckerberg kind of defended their move that they should not be making such decisions. But the point is that Facebook is a platform that can be seen as a media itself. You have a responsibility. You cannot be a platform to spread false news. Like Sandy Hook was a hoax. He spread so much hate towards Muslims and immigrants, and his whole performance, he has admitted in the court that none of this is true. He's just an entertainer who performs to monetize from it. He just sells supplements to conservatives and people get fooled. So Facebook should have banned his platform. Facebook bans pages for small things, but they are fine with Alex Jones. But finally, Apple took a step and they banned some of its podcasts from their platform, and that started a dominoes effect. And after that, YouTube banned some of its, actually it was started by YouTube, where they banned or removed some of its shows, and that's when it picked up. And now YouTube has banned InfoWars, and then Facebook ended up banning some of its pages, which they initially refused. But the worst offender of all is Twitter. Twitter has refused to ban Alex Jones. Twitter, sees no harm that is being done by Alex Jones. And why would they? Because Twitter, I've been on Twitter for a while. I actually had to delete my previous page because I was posting some comments against Donald Trump. And actually, once in a while, I was put on timeout by Twitter, where I was not allowed to post anything but in 12 hours because I posted comments on Donald Trump's. I was put on timeout, but Twitter allows Donald Trump and people like Alex Jones. At that time, I also got a lot of threats, and I reported it to Twitter. I sent them screenshots, but they refused to take any action whatsoever against those people. They told me, oh, just block them. So Twitter has kind of become a cesspool of harassment. If you see, most celebrities, they are quitting Twitter because this platform doesn't protect them. It protects people like Trump and Alex Jones. Actually, when there was a lot of discussion around that Twitter should ban Donald Trump because the way he uses the platform for hate speech, but Twitter changed its policies so that it allows Trump. And now maybe Twitter will change its policy again to allow people like Alex Jones. So I think people should start looking at alternatives of Twitter, because this platform is not a platform where people should be comfortable with. Anyway, we got too serious about it. Let's switch gear, and before we wrap, I'll just talk about a positive story, and that is that NASA has open sourced a project that allows anyone to build their own Mars rover. in your backyard. That's pretty cool, right? You can now build a Mars rover and drive it in your backyard. That's crazy. Anyway, that was the coverage from today, and this is going to be the kind of model for what I'm going to follow. I'll pick some stories, I'll go in detail, and then I'll sprinkle some stories that I think is of importance. They will be based on facts, and I'll give my own analysis on that. And that is going to be the format going forward. And I hope that this is something which is manageable for me, which will also allow me to do it on a daily basis. So let me know what you think about the format. Please just frank and share your thoughts. Before I wrap up, I just want to say thank you to my patrons. My Patreon is still small, but it's growing, and it won't be possible without support from some of the most generous people out there. What I have noticed is I was focusing a lot on those corporate enterprise interviews, because I go out and meet those technologists who are using open source to build companies and products, and I thought that was of great value. But I realized that most of my patrons, they want more of this, the community or consumer-centric stories, and that is what I'm going to do now. I'm also working on an editorial calendar for the whole month, where I'll be focusing on these areas. One day will be dedicated to Linux, where I'll be doing either tutorials or reviews, and all the news items that I'll be covering, Linux will always be there. So I'm going to mix Linux in the mainstream so that the mainstream audience get exposed to Linux. All I want to say is that without your help, this channel won't be possible. So if you do like my work, please become a patron. It takes only $1 to support my work, and if you can afford $10, then you will also be able to work with me on the Slack channel, where we can discuss what kind of stories we should be doing. At the same time, when I go to all these events, you can also join me there and work with me on the set. I can get a press pass, and then you can help me with recording, and you can also get to meet all those people like Linus Torvalds. So that's my plan. Anyway, thanks for watching. Once again, please support my work, and thank you, and see you tomorrow. Bye for now.